Sai Satcharitha, Chapter 20. Das Ganu's problem solved by Kaka Maid's servant. In this chapter, Hemant Pant describes how Das Ganu's problem was solved by Kaka Sahib Dikshit's maid servant. Preliminary. Sai, the Lord, was originally formless. He assumed a form for the sake of bhaktas. With the help of the actress Maya, he played the part of the actor in the big drama of the universe. Let us remember and visualize Sri Sai. Let us go to Shirdi and see carefully the programs after the noon arati. After the arati ceremony was over, Sai used to come out of the masjid and standing on its edge distribute udi to the devotees with very kind and loving looks. The bhaktas also showed up with equal fervor, clasped his feet and standing and staring at him, enjoyed the shower of udi. Baba passed handfuls of udi into the palms of the devotees and marked their foreheads with udi with his fingers. The love he bore for them in his heart was boundless. Then he addressed the bhaktas as follows: Ho Bau, go to take your lunch. You Anna, go to your lodgings. You Bapu, enjoy your dishes. In this way, he accosted each and every devotee and sent them home. Even now, you can enjoy these sights. Excuse. Even now, you can enjoy these sights if you bring into play your imagination. You can visualize and enjoy them. Now, bringing Sai before our mental vision, let us meditate on him from his feet upwards to his face and prostrating him before, humbly, lovingly, and respectfully revert to the story of this chapter. Ishavasya Upanishad. Das Kanu once started to write a Marathi commentary on the Ishavasya Upanishad. Let us first give a brief idea of this Upanishad before proceeding further. It is called a Mantropanishad as it is embodied in the mantras of the Vedic Samhita. It constitutes the last or the 40th chapter of the Vajasaneyi Samhita, that is Yajurveda, and it is therefore called Vajasanehi Samhitopanishad. Being embodied in Vedic Samhitas, this is regarded as superior to all other Upanishads which occur in the Brahmanas and Aranyakas, that is explanatory treatises on mantra and rituals. Not only this, other Upanishads are considered to be commentaries on the truths mentioned briefly in the Ishavasya Upanishad. For instance, the biggest of the Upanishads via the Brihadararanya Brihada, Brihadaranya Upanishad is considered by Pandit Satyavalekar to be a running commentary on the Ishavasya Upanishad. Professor R.D. Ranade says the Ishopanishad is quite small Upanishad and it contains many hints which show an extraordinarily piercing insight. Within the short compass of 18 verses, it gives us a valuable mystical description of the Atman, a description of the ideal sage who stands unruffled in the minds of temptations and sorrows, an adumbration of the doctrine of karma yoga, and later formulated and finally a reconciliation of the claims of knowledge and works. The most valuable ideas that lies in the root of the Upanishad is the logical synthesis between the two opposites of knowledge and work, which are both required according to the Upanishad to be annulled in the higher synthesis, which is referred to page 24 of the constructive survey of the Upanishad philosophy. In another place, he says that poetry of Ishopanishad is commixture of moral, mystical, and metaphysical. Ibid, page 41. From the last brief description given above this Upanishad, anyone can see how difficult it is to translate this Upanishad in a vernacular language and bring out its exact meaning. Das Ganu translated it in Marathi, OV meter, verse by verse, but he did not comprehend the gist or essence of the Upanishad. He was not satisfied with his performance. He therefore consulted some learned men regarding his doubts and difficulties and discussed with him in great length. They did not solve them, nor did they give him any rational and satisfactory explanation. So Daskanu was little restless over his matter. Sadguru only competent and qualified to explain. As we've seen, this Upanishad is the quintessence of the Vedas. It is the science of self-realization. It is the scythe or weapon which can rend asunder the bondage of life and death and make us free. Therefore, he thought that he who has himself attained self-realization, can only give him the true or correct interpretation of the Upanishad. When nobody could satisfy Daskanu, he resolved to consult Baba about this. When he got an opportunity to meet go to Shirdi, he saw Sai Baba, prostrated him before him, and mentioned his difficulties about the Ishavasya Upanishad and requested him to give the correct solution. Sai Baba blessed him and said, "You need not be so anxious. There is no difficulty about the matter. The mind servant of Kaka, that is Kaka Sahib Dikshit, will solve your doubts at Vile Parle on your way home." The people who were present then heard this, thought that Baba was joking, and said, "How could an illiterate maid servant solve the difficulties of this nature?" But Daskanu thought otherwise. He was sure that whatever Baba spoke must come true. Baba's word was the decree of Brahma, that is Almighty, Kaka's maid servant. On fully believing in Baba's words, he left Shirdi and came to Vile Parle, a suburb of Mumbai, and stayed with Kaka Sahib Dikshit. There, the next day, when Daskanu was enjoying his morning nap, some say when he was engaged in worship, he heard a poor girl singing a beautiful song in clear and melodious tones. The subject matter of the song was crimson colored sari. How nice it was, how fine it was embroidery, how beautiful were its ends and borders, etc. He liked the song so much that he came out and saw it was being sung by a young girl, the sister of Namya, who was a servant of Kaka Sahib. The girl was cleaning vessels and had only a torn rag on her person. On seeing her impoverished condition and jovial temperament, Dasguru felt pity for her, and when Rao Bahadur, Mr. M.V. Pradhan, next day gave him a pair of dothras, he requested him to give a sari to the poor little girl also. Rao Bahadur bought a good shirdi, a small sari, and presented it to her. Like a starving person getting luckily good dishes to eat, her joy knew no bounds. Next day she wore the new sari, and out of great joy and merriment, world danced round and played figurity with other girls and excelled them all. The day following, she kept the new sari in her box at home and came with the old and torn rags, but she looked as merry as she did the previous day. On seeing this, Dasganu's pity was transferred into admiration. He thought the girl, being poor, had to wear a torn rag, but now she had a sari which she kept in reserve, and putting on the old rug, shuttled herself, showing no trace of sorrow or dejection. Thus he realized that all our feelings of pain and pleasure depend upon the attitude of our mind. On thinking deeply over this incident, he realized that a man ought to enjoy whatever God has bestowed on him in the firm conviction that he besets everything from behind and before and on all sides, and that whatever is bestowed on him by God must be for his good. In this particular case, the impoverished condition of the poor girl, her torn rag and the new sari, the donor, the dance, and the acceptance were all parts of the Lord and pervaded by him. Hence, Daskanu got a practical demonstration of the lesson of the Upanishad, the lesson of contentment with one's own lot in the belief, and that whatever happens is ordained by God and is ultimately good for us. This is a unique method of teaching. From the above incident, the reader will see that Baba's method was unique and varied. Though Baba never left Shirdi, he sent some Machindragad, some to Kolhapur or Solapur for practicing sadhanas. To some, he appeared in his usual form. To some, he appeared in waking or dreaming state, day or night, and satisfy their desires. It is impossible to describe all the methods that Baba used to imparting instructions to his bhaktas. In this particular case, he sent Dasganu to Vile Parle, where he got his problems solved through the maid servant. To those who say that it was not necessary to send Dasganu outside and Baba could have done it personally, taught him, and we say Baba followed the right or best course, or how else could Dasganu would have learnt a great lesson that the poor maid servant on her sari were pervaded by the Lord. Now we close the chapter with another beautiful extract about this Upanishad. The ethics of the Ishavasya Upanishad. One of the main features of the Ishavasya Upanishad is the ethical advice it offers, and it is interesting to note that the ethics of the Upanishad are definitely based upon the metaphysical position advanced in it. The very opening words of the Upanishads tell us that God pervades everything. As a corollary from this metaphysical position, the ethical advice it offers is that a man ought to enjoy whatever God bestows on him in the firm belief and that as he pervades everything, whatever is bestowed on him by God must be good. It follows naturally that the Upanishad should forbid us from coveting another man's property. In fact, we are fittingly taught here a lesson of contentment with his own one's own lot in the belief that whatever happens, it is divinely ordained and it is hence good for us. Another moral advice is that a man must spend his lifetime always in doing action, specifically the karmas enjoyed in the Shastras, in a mood of believing resignation to his will. Inactivity, according to the Upanishad, would be the canker of the soul. It is one it is only when a man spends his lifetime on doing actions in this manner that he can hope to attain the ideal of Naishkarmya. Finally, the text goes on to say that a man who sees all beings in the form of self and sees the self as an existing in all beings, in fact, for whom all beings and everything that exist have become self, how can such a man suffer infatuation? Loathfulness, sorry, what grounds would such a man have for grief? Loathfulness, infatuation, and grief very proceed from our not being able to see the Atman in all things. But a man who realizes the oneness of all things, for whom everything has become the self, must ipso facto cease to be affected by the common for foibles of humanity. That is via page 169 to 170 of the creative period of Messrs. Belvalkar and Ranade. Bow to Sri Sai, peace be to all. We'll meet you with the 21st chapter next week. Om Sri Sai Ram.